Hey folks, John from Complete Technology Solutions, your friend in the computer business. So today we're going to do a mod that, dude, this thing is screaming to be modified. Let's rock. Yeah, seldom I actually test one of these PepperBall launchers on here that it just says, you have to modify me. And we're talking about two in particular. One of them is the shotgun, which is an upcoming video. But today, we are doing the HDR68 Caliber Revolver. And guys, I just want to drop that a little in here for Stumpy so you can see how big this thing was. And just in case you forgot, this thing's a cannon. Yes, but if you'll recall when we fired it, and if you missed that video, I'll drop a link up there. This is the chrono readings we were getting. All right, guys, so as you can see, our chronometer is still at 201. That was that last shot. We've got 5 new rounds, so let's see what we can do here. By the way, it looks like the sweet spot is right about at the cup there, so we're going to try it again. 226, 226, 197, 187, and 185, and we are out. A little anemic, right? I mean, at the end of the day, this thing ought to be firing ridiculously hard. You're firing gigantic 68 caliber PepperBalls. You don't want to be firing them like, puh, puh. You want to have some power behind it. So what we're going to do today is we're going to remove that same valve block that we always remove out of the HDP50 and sooner or later the HDS. But we are also going to go ahead and install the Power Pro 50 kit. Now, this valve retainer will fit. And I'll tell you the reason we're going to do this. I don't think it's 100% necessary, and I will test it without this. But basically what this little valve does right here is it regulates the amount of CO2 that comes from the cartridge up into the actual cylinder when you fire it. And I think that on a previous video when we did the HDR50, when you would fire it, you would see that it would just kind of go bam, 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 and it would blow out all the CO2. I think that's because there was no regulation. It was literally just filling it up with CO2, and when you pull the trigger, there was no hammer hit as such to stop it each time. So basically, when you were pulling it, it was opening up a valve and just letting it all go. So what this does is it kind of trickles that CO2 in there and creates the pressure inside the valve. I'm going to try it both ways, guys, because either way, we're going to get full pressure. I'm just curious, between trigger pulls, how long it's going to take to charge that cylinder. And it should only be, milliseconds to a second, guys. But, if you're in a situation where you have to use this for self-defense, you don't want that first round to come out like a cannon, then the second round kind of peter out. So you really want it all there at one time. So, all right, here's what we're going to do. And I'm going to try to get Stumpy focused in on this, guys. This is going to be kind of a tight little procedure here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 screws. That'll remove all of the screws from this side. And then we're going to move on to the next step. I'm not going to make you guys watch all this because I'm going to try to keep this short for expediency. So here we go. All right, guys. So after you've got all the screws removed here, and I want to make sure Stumpy is getting a good view of it. It appears he is. Okay. The next thing you're going to want to do is to pull the Picatinny rail off of the top of the weapon. And there are 2 screws to do that. Once you remove that and set it aside, just for reference, if you're doing this project on the outside here, all of these screws are the same length except for the Picatinny rails. Those are actually just, they're a little bit fatter, a little bit smaller. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to pull off the, we're going to go ahead and pull out the CO2. Not that we need to, but we're going to pull it out because we need to insert that valve. Here we go. All right, guys, so once we've got everything out here, the Picatinny rail is off and all the screws are out from here. We're ready to remove the 2 halves of the weapon. Okay, guys, so here's what we're going to do. Now we're going to separate the top and bottom. By the way, I know somebody's going to notice here, even though those are the same length, you'll notice how I actually place them in the positions that they are on the gun. That is kind of a habit of mine because I don't like losing screws, and sometimes it sucks trying to figure out where everything went. So, all right, so we're going to go ahead and pry this up here. And this will come apart in 2 sections, just like the other one did. There we go. Look at that. Like the most brittle garbage ever. I use a lot of these, but normally I get these thicker ones, and the thicker ones actually have big ridges and they're flexible. But these cheapy little plastic things, man, I've broken so many of those things. It's horrible. All right. And here is our familiar valve block. Now, you guys have seen this. If you've watched any of my videos, you've seen this quite a few times. Now, to remove this, you want to be very careful of two springs, this spring and this spring. All right, so you just want to lift up, and that spring will come out. And we're going to set it on the side over here. And this you want to lift up, and it's under a little bit more pressure, so you want to be real careful when you release that spring. And you want to set this over on the side there. And it will come all the way out of the weapon. All right, now we're going to lift up on the entire block and lift it out, just like that. All right, that goes there and that goes there. All right, and what we're working on, guys, is we want to get to this valve. This is the key. And the first thing we're going to do is, now from this point, you could go ahead and remove the valve block, which we're probably going to do, but to do it, we have to get in here because we want to push back through it and not have to like fiddle with trying to pull something out of it, all right? So to open this up, you're going to remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws, and I won't make you watch. Here we go. All right, guys, so on this stage, you probably notice I leave the screws in on this half. On the last one, I noticed that a couple of screws were just a tiny bit different as far as lengths go. So just to be sure, I want to make sure I leave those on there. Now, the next phase, guys, and this is where you've got to be careful. You're going to separate these two halves to access this mechanism. Guys, I cannot emphasize this enough. Go very slow with a small flat tip screwdriver and pry your way around the edges of this thing. It is just held down with two pressure. It's pushed into like two little pressure grooves, but you got to go slow. If you go fast and this thing comes popping open, the entire trigger mechanism that's got springs in it will go everywhere, and that's not something you want to have to deal with, trust me. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to get this one started. We'll be right back with you. So one thing that people ask me about this is when you get started on this, where do you typically start? And I've got a flat tip screwdriver here. What I usually typically do, and I want to make sure Stumpy is getting this, yeah, you want to put your screwdriver in right by the trigger and just do a little light pry. See that move? And then work your way around. And actually, this one is being a lot more cooperative than some of them we get in. Yeah, this is actually coming right apart, which is great. All right, once you get to this point, you see how loose it is? So what we're going to do is we're going to lift the top off of the bottom very slowly and set it aside. All right, now, remember, if you've got your screw still in here, and I still do, you want to make sure you set that top up like that, or your screws will come out like they tried to do right there. There we go. Okay. This is the tough part, guys, and I cannot emphasize this enough. If you are doing this mod, watch this closely. One mistake, everything goes flying off. All right. This spring, and I want to make sure Stumpy's getting it, is under incredibly high pressure right here. We have to get this out to access that valve block from the backside. And if we're going to change to this shorter valve, we have to be able to access it too. Now, all of this is interconnected. And as you can see, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 springs in here, and they're all together. So one mistake and they all can go. The trick that I do is I will hold my hand over all 3 of these and lift up on this and push in as much as you can. And you'll feel it start to move. And there it is. You see that? You'll feel it start to move, and then you just let it go. All right, and once you're to that point, you can let go of the spring and pull this up. There you go, guys. That is the trick to doing this. You've got to take your time, and whatever you do, don't let that go flying. That's the worst part. So the hard part is now over. We have disassembled the weapon. Okay, so we're going to pull the spring off here, and we're going to pull off this little cap, and there is a rubber grommet right there, guys. Don't lose that grommet, all right? I'm going to put that back on there because we don't need it right now. All right. Now, one of the valves we need to change is right in there, and it's a very short little valve, very small, but they have a tendency to use a Loctite on this that will not allow you to access it. If that's the case, all you need to do is heat this up, and normally a lot of people will use a heat gun on like a low setting to break that, to get that out of there. And then once you've heated it up, you can pull that valve out and stick the new valve in. I'm not going to make you watch that, but that's all you really want to do. And the only difference is that valve is a tiny bit shorter and allows for a little bit more pressure release. So, yeah, there you go. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to use our electrician's pliers over here. Wire getting in my way there. All right. On the back of the valve block, we're going to put the pliers in, and we're going to unscrew the valve block. Guys, these are electrician's pliers, by the way. If you guys have never seen them, they just have that little bend on them with a little hook. so that you can get in there and get this. I've seen people doing this in a couple of ways. I've seen them doing it where they've got a couple of screws put together with some like a rubber band in the middle to kind of, you know, create a little point thing and stick it in there and twist. Whatever works for you. But yeah, electrician's pliers are the proper way. All right, and that is the valve seal that we are going to remove. You see how that looks a little different than the other one. But as you can see by the little prongs, and hopefully Stumpy can see this, you got a prong there, a prong there, and a prong there. It's just holding in that valve seal, okay? So what we want to do is from the back side of it, you can use a regular screwdriver, or in this case, I think I'm going to see if I got an Allen key that works. Okay, Allen key, right. And then we're going to tap it through the other side. Now, guys, this does not take a tremendous amount of force to tap this through, so don't go crazy on it. There we go. And we're going to pop that all the way through and get that out of there. I'm going to go a little bit wider this time. All right. And there it is. That's the valve block that we just removed. And you can see how that constricts the air there, okay? Yes, I'm using a spatula or whatever that's called. Whatever. All right. And now you can see we have free and unconstricted airflow, which is what we were looking for. All right. At that point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the seal back on. And guys, you want to make very, very sure. There's a lot of grease on the inside of this, guys. So you want to make absolutely sure that you're preserving as much of that as possible. And you can oil and grease when you're done, too, if you want to. All right, so we're going to put that on. And we want to make sure that this is secured, because this is the most important seal that you'll have to deal with right here. There we go. And there. Okay, so that's nice and snug down. All right. At this point, this valve is what I'm going to change next. I'll be right back with you. Okay, guys, so here's what we got. If you look up in here, you can actually see the new shiny new valve that I installed. And this is the old one that we took out. And honestly, guys, there was, if I had to gauge it, maybe a millimeter at best of difference. There really was not much of a difference there. So the other valve, this block, is actually going to go into the bottom here, and we can do that once the weapon is reassembled. So, all right, we're going to start the reassembly. We're going to set the old pressure block over here. All right, here we go. So we're going to put our nozzle on here. And don't forget that rubber grommet, guys. Put this back on. And we're going to put this back on. Now, here we go with the pressure again. You guys remember, this is harder than taking it off, so I want you to watch closely. What I do is I will lay this down into place and try to get real close to where the grommets need to be, which is right about there. Hold and push. And this is hard, guys, but you got to do it in this order. If you don't, it will not work right, or your screws will go flying. There we go. So right there, you'll notice this spring goes all the way through. These two grommets are now on top. Slide it down into place, and you guys will see that it locks down in there. Guys, that is the most nerve-wracking part of this whole job. The rest of this is pretty simple once you get that done. I would also suggest, guys, if you're doing this for your first time, take your phone and take a really good picture of this entire mechanism. That way, if you should, ba-ding, you can put it back together, all right? So, all right, we're going to go ahead and slide our barrel holder in here. Slide the barrel in right here. Now, guys, one thing that's really nice about this, and I want to show Stumpy this real quick. Oh, guys, it just occurred to me, I think I might have missed a lot of that content with Stumpy. I hope I didn't. I am so sick of this camera, guys. I am so sorry. All right, here we go. So we've got the weapon apart, and I want to show you guys this again just in case, and we'll put it back together, and I'll do it on Stumpy so you can see it assembled, and then reverse kind of engineer that process. So, all right. So this little attachment, nothing can be put in backwards on this, guys, which is really cool. Like if you tried to flip this around, it won't fit. So it only goes in one direction, which is really nice, okay? Now, once you get to this point, we're ready to go ahead and put the other side on. Now, guys, this is what I was telling you to take a very good picture of if you are doing this modification. And when you lift this valve block out, you want to hold tight here, lift the whole valve block out. Don't let it fly free. I know I'm repeating myself, but I have no idea what I missed on Stumpy. I won't find that out until post-processing. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and put this back on, and it will slide right into place. And then all you've got to do from that point is screw it all down. Be right back. All right, guys, once you've got it all back together, you can test your trigger mechanism, make sure everything is working, and it is advancing, and everything is clicking normally. Okay, so everything is working normally now. Yeah, guys, I am really sorry about this stupid Stumpy situation. For those of you who don't remember, somebody actually stole my camera off of my stage when I wasn't here one weekend. They literally walked in here, grabbed the camera, and walked out. So I'm making do. All right, so let's go ahead and reassemble the revolver. So we're going to take the side. We're going to put this back into place. Now, when you put this into place, guys, you need to have this piece ready because it has to slide in there at the same time or you'll never get the thing in there. It's really kind of annoying, but there we go. There you go. See how it slides forward? Then put your spring back on. Once again, I hope Stumpy's catching this, guys. I think he is. All right. And get your barrel spring back on. And just make sure that's up in there where it belongs. Okay, when you're putting this spring in, you want to make absolutely sure that you've got the, and I'm going to turn this over here, that little knobby piece right there, that's actually what pulls this back and forward here. Hopefully Stumpy's getting that. Make sure you've got that through the groove and it's sitting right there. All right, get our barrel spring back on. And it's all kind of one big tinker toy, so as you do it, go slow, take your time, put it all together. All right, I'm going to mount this side to it. There we go. And we're going to get all of our screws back in. Here we go. All right, guys, as you can see, we are now back together again. Let's go ahead and put our magazine in. Not that it matters at this point in time, but we're going to put it in anyway, make sure everything works. We are cycling. Everything is turning normally. Now, for this valve block, now I'm going to try to get Stumpy to look at this, and let me see if I can get some light down there, guys. And please, guys, I am so sorry about this, Stumpy. He's horrible. All right, if you can see down there, do you see that hole? That's actually what we're going to be backfilling using the little valve block that's in here. And the way you do this is actually kind of cool. And I'll show this to Stumpy here. They include this in the kit. So you thread this in right here. All right. Then you place it straight down the valve block and into that hole. And when it seats in that hole, you hear it click into place. Then you unthread this. So what that does is that restricts the amount of CO2 that gets directly from the cartridge up into the chamber there. And once again, let me light this up so you can see what it looks like. Guys, I do not think that that's necessary. I really don't. After looking at this weapon, I think that you could run this raw as long as you were not holding down that trigger. I don't think it would make a difference. We're going to test it both ways, though. So, all right. To test this, guys, we're going to use our standard 68-gram Riot Balls. I've got a new ammo coming in for this. Another company sent me some red Riot Balls. They're all nylon, and they say they're 3.6 grams. So those ought to fire like cannons out of this. And I've also got some Devastators coming in to test, along with a new target that we've been printing that actually we can get some penetration, some depth penetration on these things, which is pretty cool. And it's cheaper than a ballistics dummy. So let's take this out. Let's get it set up on our range, and let's see if it chronos better than that 200 mark where it was last time. Here we go. Something occurred to me, guys. Let's go ahead and put this cartridge in before we go out there. Make sure we don't have any leaks. All right, so we got a Umarex cartridge. There you go. We're going to put a drop of our Pell gun oil on the top here. We want this to be a fair test, guys. You might notice that's why I always try to use the exact same equipment. Slide that in. Put that in there. Crank it down. All right, here's the test. Any leaks? I don't hear any. Sounds really good, guys. And we did get a pop out right there. So let's go ahead now. Let's move to the range. Here we go. All right, folks. So here we are on the range again. We got our chronometer. Now, I moved this over a little bit, guys, so hopefully I can get a straight shot without having to shoot past the camera, because that is a little bit challenging. Now, I'm not really shooting for Scully down there. Okay, right now, all we're doing is we're watching this. We want to see what kind of power we get. So remember, we are already popped out. Let's get some glasses on. All right. Stepping behind the camera and behind the chronometer, and please tell me we're going to get some kind of reading here. Here we go. Whoa! Oh, my God. 364. Okay, that's it. Scully's getting it. Oh, my God. Okay, we got to look at that in a minute, guys. All right, 364. 357. 342. Oh, man. Jeez. And we are out. Look at that, guys. All 5 rounds. And it's still hitting hard. Holy cow. All right. Hang on a minute. No movie magic. If you guys saw that, Scully just went boom. So hang on. Let me see what it actually did to him. What I did is I turned this guy sideways so we could get a nice solid hit to see what we got. Oh, my God. Dude. Okay, I want you to look at this. We went in the nose, through the entire skull, and out the other side. That went through his head. All right, I'm going to try. We're on the second setup here, so let me put him like this on a weird angle. And I don't know what this is going to do. Holy cow. What we're going to do is we're going to take our magazine. I'm going to load in 5 more Riot Balls. And let's see what we get out of this. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I can't wait to try those Devastators, by the way, guys. Now, 2 of these, I want you to take a look at this, are a little different. See the difference? So 3 of these are the plastic ones, and 2 of those are those rubber with a steel ball. So I'm really kind of curious to see if we're going to see any kind of a change. Guys, we know what it chronos at. I'm actually going to see if I can hit Scully. So, all right, glasses on. Here we go. Now, we're on our second set of rounds here. Dude, okay, Scully. Nope, can't shoot him down there. There's a microwave. All right, let's just see if we can get some readings here. God. 327 and 219. Now 213, that was the 10th round. So let's see how many more we've got. All right, so that answers the question. You're going to get about 9 to 10 solid rounds. Does that sound familiar, guys? Just like the HDP 50. And if you didn't see that video, I'm going to pop it up here so you guys can check that one out too. But that's it, and we are totally empty. So 9 to 10 rounds. But the velocity, dude, you almost doubled the power of this. This is now an effective self-defense weapon. Hang on a minute. Let me reposition. I'll be right back with you. Holy cow, guys. That is now effective. So, okay, I still don't think, and I know I'm going to get people that are going, oh, yeah, got to have it. I don't think that you necessarily have to have the Powerkit 50. I think that you could literally do this mod and do nothing more than remove that valve block, and it would create the velocities that we were seeing, and maybe even a little bit more. But we did see some consistency in those first 5 rounds. They all stayed in that 350 to 360 range, and that's using the very heavy balls that we were using. So the next time we test this, and I want to do a head-to-head. Y'all know what I'm thinking, right? I want to do a head-to-head with the modified HDR. I want to do it with the TR50, and I want to do it with the HDP 50, all modified, and let's see where the performance really is. Okay, my money for power is on that HDP 50. I have done some off-screen testing with that HDP 50, guys, and on a fresh cartridge, I managed to get 670 feet per second out of one of the Riot Balls. That's like ridiculous. Now, I also, for those of you wondering, ordered some 50 caliber steel bearings, and we will be testing those when we do the head-to-head against all of these. So I cannot wait to see what that actually does. My guess is lower, obviously lower velocity, but the impact ought to be like a freight train. So we'll see what happens. But guys, if you own this weapon, just like the other ones, do this mod. You cannot go wrong, and you will not regret it. It turns it into something functional as well as just ridiculously cool. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a fantastic weekend. If I don't talk to you sooner, stay safe out there, guys. Bye-bye.